Have you ever wished Apple would bring back the iPhone 13 mini? Well, the iPhone 16e might just be the closest thing we ever get. But is it really an upgrade, or is Apple just recycling old parts? Some changes make it feel fresh, while others might leave you disappointed. Stick around because by the end, you'll know if this is your dream phone or just a total letdown. Use the chapters to jump to a specific section. Now let's dive in. So before we compare it to the Mini, let's talk about what the iPhone 16e actually is. For the first time in a while, Apple is shaking up its lineup. Instead of the usual iPhone 16, 16 Plus, and Pro models, we're getting an E variant. But what does that actually mean? Is E for economy, essential, or maybe just expensive? Well, the iPhone 16e is technically a more affordable model, sitting below the regular iPhone 16, possibly replacing the iPhone SE lineup altogether. It's still an iPhone 16 at its core, but Apple seems to be cutting a few corners to make it cheaper. And that brings us to the big question, is this just a budget phone, or is it secretly the iPhone 13 mini's spiritual successor? All right, let's talk about why some people are calling the iPhone 16e the closest thing that we'll ever get to a mini. Number one, it's smaller than the Pro models. If you love small phones, the biggest problem with recent iPhones is just how massive they've gotten. The Pro Max models are basically tablets at this point, and even the standard iPhone 16 is fairly hefty. The iPhone 16e, however, is the lightest iPhone in the lineup, which immediately makes it appealing for mini fans. Now, it won't be as small as the iPhone 13 mini, but it won't weigh down your pocket or require two hands to use. But does lighter automatically mean mini? Not exactly. Number two, no always-on display. Another thing that makes the iPhone 16e feel more like the older minis, it lacks that always-on display, something Apple introduced on the iPhone 14 Pro. If you love the Mini for being a simple, no-nonsense phone, this is actually good news for you. No distracting screen glowing at you all the time, just a clean, powerful, efficient experience. Number three, battery life. The one thing I will say this phone has going for it is that battery life. I don't know if I'm just used to Apple giving us better, more compact batteries and then not even increasing the battery capacity at all, but on this phone, they really did. I actually found with this phone, it would last longer than a day, and in a lot of cases, it actually outpaced the iPhone 16 Pro. I was shocked to say it is amazing for battery life. Number four, a lower price. Now let's talk about money. One of the best things about the iPhone 13 mini was that it was a flagship level phone at a lower price point. The iPhone 16e was rumored to start at a more affordable price than the iPhone 16, more in line with the iPhone SE, which was $429. Instead, Apple surprised everybody by launching at $599 or $899 Canadian, then after tax, that's about $1,000. So then at this price point, it gets really difficult from a review standpoint. Do we review this as a budget phone with budget performance, or do we go based on price, which is approaching flagship pricing? So then do we compare it as such? And so if you're okay with spending that much on a phone that hopefully holds up, if it's going to replace your Mini for a long period of time, maybe you don't mind the price. Then with all of that in mind, let's talk about the real deal breakers here. Here's where things get disappointing. The iPhone 16e has a 6.1-inch display. That's a lot bigger than the 5.4-inch screen on the 13 mini. And if you love the Mini because of its truly compact size, this is probably a deal breaker. Think about it. What made the Mini special? It wasn't just that it was smaller. It was that it was actually compact in a way that no other modern phone was. You could reach every part of the screen with your thumb, fit in any pocket, use it comfortably with one hand. The iPhone 16e, still bigger than an iPhone 10. So while it's technically smaller than the Pro models, it's not a Mini. I mean, would it have killed Apple to just make a 5.4-inch version again? Probably not, but sales numbers from the 12 and 13 minis suggest not enough people would actually buy them. And that's likely why Apple is making this phone bigger, even if it alienates true Mini fans. But it really does seem like if Apple launched this as a Mini, that would be the main value proposition, and then we wouldn't have to answer, who is this phone for and making it confusing. The Mini would be a feature itself that was better than the rest of the lineup. Okay, so we've established that the iPhone 16e kind of resembles a Mini, but isn't actually small. So is this just Apple reusing old components? It starts with an internal A16 Bionic chip, the chip from the past iPhone 14 Pro and 15, not the latest, but still powerful enough to get by for a few years. The display doesn't have ProMotion, sticking with that standard 60 Hz refresh rate in 2025. The iPhone 16e comes with a single rear camera. It's 48 megapixels. It's only capable of 1 or 2 times optical zoom with up to 10 times digital zoom. But I need to talk about this for a second. A lot of people are saying it is the same camera as the iPhone 16, but don't be fooled by that. It's actually the same size sensor as the iPhone 11 and the aperture matching that of iPhone 12. This means, it's enough to get by, but don't just hear 48 megapixels and think it's the same quality as the iPhone 16, because the 16 would actually be a huge jump from that. And so that leads us to another question. Who is this phone really for? So based on cost, you would probably consider the iPhone 16 as the budget model, but you could spend a little more to jump up to the 16, which upgrades, just about everything and comes with MagSafe. Or you could buy a used iPhone 15 Pro and get majorly upgraded cameras and more future-proofed specs for the long term for probably the same price. It's funny, the iPhone 16e just cut enough features that it's really hard to suggest. Now, if you're someone who just wants a cheaper, lighter iPhone and doesn't mind the larger screen and maybe all you care about is battery life, the iPhone 16e might actually be a good option. But if you were hoping for a true mini comeback, this ain't it. It's basically Apple giving us a smaller iPhone without actually committing to a compact iPhone. And for mini lovers, it's frustrating. So, is the iPhone 16e the new iPhone 13 mini? It's the smallest new iPhone Apple is making. It's likely the most affordable new model, but it's still much bigger than the mini. At the end of the day, this is probably the closest thing we're ever going to get to another iPhone mini revival. But no, it's really not a mini. It's just a more compact alternative to a full-sized iPhone. But what do you think? Is this the mini replacement that you've been waiting for? Or is Apple completely missing the point here? Were you hoping for a true iPhone SE instead of the 16e? Let me know all of that down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Apple updates. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.